What has happened? We have reduced by 70% imports of maize. We have reduced by 70% imports of sugar. And we have doubled our exports of dairy products. What am I saying? That sector is undergoing transformation. And I want to promise you that the 500 billion, imagine, 500 billion Kenya shillings we use every year to import food in the country. We've now cut it down from 500 billion to 300 billion. Our intention is that in the next 3 to 4 years, we will bring our import bill of food from that 500 billion, we are now at 300, we will bring it to zero. Because we can produce all our food in Kenya. We'll save on foreign exchange and we will put money in our farmers' pockets. Mnanielewa? Number 3, we agreed that we want to reform our education sector. You know, in 2022, citizens were not sure about CBC. In fact, as I campaigned in many parts of the country, parents, citizens were saying, let us abolish CBC. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Si ilikuwa namna hiyo? So my first assignment when I arrived here is to set up a presidential working party. Because if there is one thing we must never get wrong is education. Because if we get it wrong in education, we fail as a country. That presidential working party worked with our manifesto. They looked at the areas, they listened to teachers, and I want to congratulate the teachers of Kenya. You became the largest contributors of ideas that today informs what we are doing. What has happened because of that engagement? Number 1, deliberately, by the way, and for your information, very few people can dare reform the education sector because it's a very sensitive area. A friend of mine told me this education sector is very sensitive. Parents are very particular about their kids. If you touch this sector, it is going to be something else. But I said, unless we get it right in the education sector, everything else will go wrong. So we went through this together. We can now tell you, and you are the masters in that field, CBC now has more clarity than it ever had. The transition of our kids is now clear, and I want to thank you for supporting that sector. Number 2, I have increased the budget from the education sector from 540 billion in 2022. This year, it is at 702 billion. The largest increase in funding in the education sector in Kenya. And I'm not doing it because of guesswork. I am deliberate and intentional because I know any investment we make in the education sector is not an expenditure. It is an investment because we will get returns from it. You know very well, your teachers, we had huge gaps in our classrooms. Every administration was hiring 5,000 teachers every year. True or not true? That was the norm. We're hiring 5,000 teachers every year. I decided that we must do it differently. And I want to thank you very much because you understood what I was saying. You allowed us as government to hire huge numbers of teachers, even though we started with interns, because it was necessary for us first to have teachers in classroom, get them out of the streets, balance the money we have. And today, I can confidently say in this teachers meeting that we are slowly closing the gap on teacher-student ratio. We now have 76,000 teachers teaching. In January, we will have 100,000, and by 2027, we will have 120,000 teachers hired. Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize, kwa sababu nyinyi mnajua hesabu. Yeah? Other administrations have been hiring 5,000 teachers every year, right? We have hired by January 100,000 teachers in 3 years. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Sasa nyinyi kwa hesabu yenu acha niwaulize 100,000 teachers, kama tungeendelea na ile mpango ya zamani ya 5,000 teachers every year, how long will it take us to hire 100,000 years? 20 years. So teachers that were supposed to be hired in 20 years, we have hired in 3 years. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Tunaelewana? On top of it, we have put money to have more classrooms. We have now built in the last 3 years 23,000 classrooms. And I want to thank members of parliament who are here, the chair of the committee and all the committee members. They have worked with me to make sure that we provide resources through CDF and through government resources to hire, to build more classrooms, because classrooms and teachers form the foundation of learning. Then we can input the rest of the things in between. Tumekubaliana ndugu zangu walimu. On top of that, it was necessary for us to look at funding. And I am happy that we are going to be discussing later. I have seen in some of the asks you are going to ask me how we can enhance funding. But we had to start from somewhere. We had serious problems with our universities. Most of our universities, actually 23 of our universities, had been declared insolvent. Egerton University, Nairobi University, Kenyatta University. Most of our universities, Moi University was almost dead. Most of our universities were paying salaries, half salary. They were not remitting pay as you earn, NSSF and all those. We had a big crisis. And let me tell you, good people, the reason why I had to take a very informed stand on matters education is that if you want to destroy a nation, go to education and do the wrong things. Because for past so long, our universities were struggling. And it was not right, because what was happening is that we were sending so many kids to university. We're not providing the resources. They had to begin to cut corners. And ultimately, we were going to have half-baked graduates. And that is the reason why we had to have the difficult conversation on funding in our education, especially our higher education. I can now confidently stand before you today that our higher education, ask any vice chancellor, the new student-centered model has increased resources available for teaching at the university. In 2022, the maximum was 45 billion. If you go to this year's budget, it is 82 billion shillings, from 45 billion to 82 billion shillings this year. Universities can now pay salaries in full. They can pay their tax obligations. They can pay their suppliers. And slowly, we are bringing to the rails our university education. Our TVETs, the numbers in 2022, we had 340 students in Tibet. Now we have 720, and I have agreed with the ministry that we want to have 2 million by 2027 in our Tibets. And by the way, it is intentional. And I will tell you why.